For Trauma Talk Thursday today, we're going to talk about self harm and the effects that self harm has on your emotional state as well as your physical state, as much as your mental, and even further still, if we get to that point, sexual state, because it can affect that. So it's a very popular misconception that people see self harm as being, when you say self harm, people immediately rush to it's an unaliving event. Self harm to the body populace as a whole is okay, that means this person's thinking about suicide and they're going to kill themselves. They're going to unalive themselves. And that's not true. Self harm comes in this degree as much as it comes in this degree. And so, and the reasons that we do it, um, is it could be, um, as minor as I'm smoking a cigarette because I think that smoking a cigarette isn't going to hurt me because I'm trying to cope, versus two extra glasses of scotch at night because I just don't care, versus cutting, which won't necessarily kill you, versus a full blown, you know, unaliving event that causes you to take the long walk and leave. And so, um, I figure we'll just start at the top of the list and go down. Now, I will tell you that if we start at the top of the list, that means that I'm going to tell the hospital story. Because I have zero issue actually talking about that trauma. The trauma is old and it sucks, and you're going to hate to hear it, but so tissue damage and scarring. So repeated self injury creates permanent marks that map an entire viscera of pain. Scars form, you get discoloration on your skin, that area becomes sensitive to touch or sensations. There's physical effects that happen because of tissue damage and scarring. And so, and then too, the reminder is itself a shaming emotional effect, that you have as a result of incurring that damage to yourself. And so, um, you know, hypertrophic scarring creates, rope-like ridges. So if you're a cutter and you cut your arm, there's physical damage that happens there. And so, and it's all because you're trying to cope. So from my perspective, the start of that journey, the actual start of my self-harm journey, started many years ago with my then girlfriend, Karen. And if you read my biography, I will tell you not to. Don't read it. It's a piece of shit. If Miranda posts a link to it in the chat, I'm going to be mad at her because nobody should read that hunker. Dunkers.
Yeah, first I got to find the link.
Right. No, and this is me not telling you to find the link. But anyway, that relationship was a profoundly difficult relationship to have. The amount of inherent damage that I did to myself through the process of that relationship and the end of that relationship was life changing. Admittedly, while I was in the relationship, I was drinking a ton. I mean, I was knocking back bottles of Macallan's every week. I'd go through a fifth of Macallan's in the 12 in a week, easily. 4 to 8 to 12 fingers a night. So I was already harming myself dealing with the aspect of that relationship. But When the relationship ended, which by the way ended because Karen chose to unalive herself, I did not handle that experience at all well. And so my attention to my mortality became much less. And so I would say between 6 and 7 months after she unalived herself, I found myself going into situations and picking fights with people that were 8 times my size and 5 times as wide. And it all came to a head one night when I picked a fight with more than one person. And that experience led me to break my right leg in 47 places. So, to put that into perspective for everybody, my foot went 180 degrees around to the right, and then 45 to the left and 45 to the right. And then my knee went 45 to the left and 45 to the right. And my hip was taken completely out of joint. So I had visceral breaks all riddled through from my hip to my foot. And I had breaks.
And this was you were like in your early 20s when this
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
And you're not a contortionist.
Nope. Nope. Not a contortionist. And yeah, I was very young. I mean, I was barely over 20 when this happened. And so, and again, from an emotional perspective, I literally didn't care. The individuals who were involved in this situation, I literally wanted them to beat me within an inch of my life. Really, just beat me within an inch of my life. Or even go farther than that. If they had gone farther than that, I wouldn't have fucking cared. I really wouldn't have. I was in that much pain. And I want to be clear. A year after Karen unalived herself, her brother, who was my best friend, he unalived himself, drove his car into a ditch on purpose. So all of us were not processing that loss at all well. And I spent, here's the thing. I tell people this. I remember laying in the hospital. I literally was in so much pain. They had me on painkillers. And all I remember was the doctor saying this or this. And I remember looking at the doctor and going like this. And I would tell you that if I could do it over again, I would have told him to cut it off. The amount of pain that I've dealt with after the fact, the spasms, the scarring, the number of surgeries, all of it. At that time in my life, if the older me could talk to the younger me, I would tell the younger me, just tell him to cut it off. That pain will be infinitely less than the pain you'll deal with having all the reconstruction done. But that was the choice I made. And I spent months in traction. I spent months learning to walk again. Um, you know, did I get better? Yeah. Did it hurt? Oh, fuck yeah. But, from my perspective, that was the closest to actually attempting to unalive myself that I had ever gotten. And that's what happens when you don't cope with these situations. You just don't.
And what about since then?
Well, since that time, when I came out as queer, that wasn't so bad. But right up until and before, Precious Hope has a question. Precious, ask your question, please.
Maybe it's a long question.
She's probably typing on her phone, and that
Yes,
sucks.
that takes.
It's
And then
hard
if you do the
hard to
swipe
do the
thing,
chat on the phone. Yeah.
So Precious Hope, I'm 53 years old now. This surgery happened over 30 years ago. Over 30 years ago. And while I'm waiting for Precious Hope to probably ask the next question, so right up to the time that Precious Hope, no, it's actually gotten worse. The spasms and the pain and it's gotten a little. My sciatic nerve almost permanently stays on fire constantly at all times in my older age. And so, no, it hasn't improved. So,
Wendy, I know that you've had like multiple surgeries then to reconstruct things. In the intervening 30 years, have you had to have additional surgeries or like another hip put in?
Do you really want me to answer that question?
What you answer is up to you.
No, I haven't. Have I been asked to? Yes. Have I done it?
I thought that was going to be your answer.
No,
Yeah.
no. Have I done it? No. And and then even further, why haven't I done it? I have a very difficult problem with atonement, and my ability to atone for the things that I have done is complicated. And there are things that I hold myself accountable for. Now, from a therapeutic perspective, should I? No. Do I? Yes. Yes, I do. And this is the reason why I tell you not to read the biographies. When you read the biography, um, you're going to find out that I was not a good person, and I did some very bad things, and I hurt a lot of people. And so, yeah, I mean, have I been approached about having adjustments done? Yes. Will I do them? No, I won't. And that's my illness over not atoning enough. Um, and that's why, yeah, I Precious, we're all human. So, so right up until before I came out as trans, I was going back down. I was going back down that road, and I was ready to unalive myself again. And rather than at the age of 45, Precious, no, no, I'm not a masochist. Um, I I don't believe that I can atone enough for the things that I've done. Um,
It sounds similar to what we were talking about the other day with religion and bearing a cross.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. So,
and basically, you're continuing to engage in self-harm in a way. I mean, you're not actively causing the harm, but you are not doing anything to prevent it when you could.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I'll put it this way. Am I going to eventually do something about it? Yes, I'm going to. Um, Probably this year, going into next year, I am finally going to look at my orthopedist and say, it's time for me to go down to the prosthetics. And it's time for me to electively to remove 35 pounds in one surgery and actually make the problem go away. Precious Hope, I've been in therapy for a very long time. I've been in therapy.
She's doing 10,000% better than she used to with
Yeah,
this
Precious, it's like
feelings of atonement.
yeah, if you read the biography, then you'll understand. You'll have an idea. Uh, Precious, you're right, because as a trans woman, I'm already looking at 3 major surgeries on top of that. But anyway, so before I came out as trans, I was going back down the road of unaliving myself. Because I was trans and I had this voice in the back of my head, and the voice in the back of my head kept telling me over and over again, just let me out. And I refused to accept that. And so I had reached the point where I had my bridge picked out, goes over a major highway, and I had picked the time 1:30 in the 1:34 in the afternoon was statistically the time in which the least amount of traffic went under that bridge. And it was on a major interstate highway. And so um, over the course of the 2 years before I came out as a trans woman, I every 3 or 4 months I'd drive by the bridge, I'd stop, I'd look at a picture of Gizmo, my child, and then I'd talk myself out of it. I'd find there'd be some reason for me not to do it. And so a month before I transitioned, um, started my gender transition, my therapist was like, you have to do something. I, in good conscience, cannot abide listening to you talk about driving up the bridge, driving past the bridge, and then telling yourself, no, I can't do that. And so I said, well, what do I do? I don't, I don't know. And she said, listen to your fucking therapist and understand that you are a transgendered person and just embrace that. And so, um, yeah, I did that. And then it got better. It got a lot better. Um, Precious, I'll tell you, I forgive myself. Yeah, I've forgiven myself for a lot of things that I have done. But in short of forgiving myself, um, I'm still in possession of a couple of reminders that both of those know about, um, that, I can't let go and are reminders of that time. So, yeah. Ooh, somebody else talk for a minute. I'm about to fall apart.
Yeah, okay. So, I had a friend whenever I was a teenager who was probably trans. Like, looking back, it's easy to see the egg signs, and that's probably a big basis for why we were friends, because we were these two lonely people who didn't feel understood. And um, that person was um, caught cross dressing by their girlfriend at the time. And that story spread around the school.
Mhm.
And or multiple schools, because it was like I was in uh, a small, like what I'd think of as a small town, but it was like we were the county seat, and then there were these like really small towns around us, and so like the social cliques were all county wide. But so they succumbed to their shame and self-deleted. Um, and that drove me so much deeper into the closet, because it was at a point in my life where like I was starting to figure out what being trans was, and that's who I was. But like all of the examples of trans people that we saw in the 90s were, you know, the freaks on Jerry Springer, or that kind of thing. Um and so like the worst thing in the world would be being one of those, right? Um so them doing that drove me back into the closet, buried my feelings. Um I almost followed suit. Um there were several times that I went into my parents' bedroom while I was home alone and got out my dad's 9 millimeter and fiddled with it and practiced squeezing the trigger with the safety on and bringing it up toward my head. And um, it was all because I had been taught that I was a monster. Um, y'all have heard me talk a lot about religious trauma, and like that's a very big part of what drove me to that point, is that, I grew up Southern Baptist, and, original sin and uh, the depravity of humanity were like drilled into me from when I was young. And um, so this sin that I couldn't shake of wanting to be a woman um, must mean that I'm unforgivable. It must mean that this is the thorn in my side that I have to live with. And I almost couldn't live with it. Um, so there were multiple times when I was at that level. Um, so I ended up um, diving back into the closet, um, doubling down on performing masculinity, um, doubling down on the idea that as a man, um, the way to find acceptance was through physical pursuits. So, like, I had always played multiple sports. Um, I played soccer for a long time. I played baseball for a long time. Played basketball for a number of years. Oh my gosh, I was so bad at basketball. um,
Me too.
and in middle school, I started playing um, tennis, which seemed a better fit for me because it can be a solo sport. Um, and but like I always pushed too hard in sports. Like I love sports. I think um, they're a great way to find yourself and um, take care of yourself. But when you push too hard, you're not taking care of yourself. You get into that self harm. And so, I was every sport I played, like my off the field practice was 5 times more than anybody on my team. Um, playing tennis, like I would go out there with a ball hopper and this is just a big bucket of balls. Um, and
You play
hit
with a big bucket of balls.
and that's why I'm bisexual. um,
I'm sorry.
so
You understand what I'm doing here. I'm just not.
yeah, yeah. So like I would go out there and instead of hitting one bucket of serves to practice my serve, I would be out there hitting 4, 5, 6 buckets of serves until I literally couldn't hit the ball anymore because my back, my shoulder, and my legs were hurting so much. Um, during matches, I was the reckless one who would, even though I was averse to pain generally, uh, would be at the net hitting volleys and would dive at a shot that was like a passing shot going by me. Um, and so I pushed it so hard that I shredded the meniscus in both of my knees. Um, I wasn't able to play my senior year. Um, I had 3 knee surgeries by like age 21. Um, so I had surgery on my left knee. As soon as I recovered from that, I had surgery on my right knee. Um, as soon as I recovered from that, I went back to the court and re-injured my left knee and had surgery again. And it was all because I was pushing myself beyond my limits because I didn't care about my wellness. I cared about proving that I was man enough. I cared about proving that I could make these achievements in the sport. Um, and so, um, now I'm 42. I have a recommendation for uh, another surgery in my right knee, just like Wendy has her her surgery recommendation. Um, the last couple of years since I came out as trans, I've taken care of myself a lot better. Because once sports weren't an option because I had ruined my knees, it was just like I was sedentary. Um, and so the last 2 years, like I've managed to reasonably increase my activity. You know, I'm like we have a dog. I'm the main dog walker in the house, so like I'm walking Lizzie 3 times a day most days. Um, we go to the park. I do laps around there's a big lake in the middle of the park, so like I do laps around the park. Um, I've um rehabbed my knees to a point where most days I don't have noticeable pain. Um, some days I have like a little bit of aching, and then it's like occasionally like a front will move through, and that just fucking destroys me. Like those days are bad, but um, before I came out, most of the days were like that last category, where it was like I had to, in order to get out of bed in the morning, I had to pop my knees to make them function. Like if I didn't pop my knees, my legs were not going to bend that day. Um, so yeah, like a lot of my self-harm story is about like more, uh, what's considered passive self-harm. Um, because it's not cutting, it's not, um, unaliving attempts, but it's still harmful. It still, um, leaves you in a position where you can't live the life that you deserve to live. Um, at some point in like during my teen years, like I smoked off and on. In my 20s, I picked up smoking as a regular habit, um, knowing full well that that's not good for your body, it's not good for your lungs, but I didn't care. I thought even if I can't, even if I'm not like strong enough, which is like an odd way to put it, but you know what I mean, to squeeze the trigger myself, I didn't think that I deserved to live. And so I was just going to not care. I was going to mistreat my body until it gave up.
Yeah.
Um, so like, when I tell people that as um coming out as trans saved my life, that is true on so many levels. Like it radically changed how I valued my body, how I valued myself, how I valued the idea of living. Um, I spent nearly 40 years not wanting to live. And, now my perspective is I want 40 more years. Like, I want to live. I want to go on adventures with my spouse and our kids. And I want to love people and love myself. And like those things weren't options before because I wanted to be gone.
Yeah, I had similar thoughts. I I don't remember a time where I ever physically self-harmed. Um, it was all emotional, all depression. And I heard a quote one time that said depression is anger turned inward. I don't know if it's always the case necessarily that it's anger, but I think that is true for me in some instances at least. Kind of mad at myself for being the way I was, for being born the way I was, mad at God for making me the way I was.
Let me
I'm
just
so
stop
mad
you
at
right.
him.
Let me stop you right there, Brandon, before you continue, and I want you to continue. Um, yes, you have.
Have what?
Some ways, that still means that you have.
Oh, physically?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, your emotions, the depression can really affect you physically as well. Yes. Um, I think part of, because I talked about this not too long ago about wanting to die, and my dad didn't have a handgun. He was a hunter. He had, shotguns, rifles, whatever. And I didn't ever shoot them. I didn't know how to use them or anything. If I don't know if he had had a handgun, that might have been much easier to use, but I don't know if I would have gone through with that. You know, people pleasing can be very detrimental, but I think in some ways, in my case, it prevented me from going through with that act of finality, you know, that I thought of other people, what other people would think or how they would find me or things like that. I was thinking of other my mom and my family and things like that, and I didn't want to put them through that because they didn't know, you know, at first when I was going through thinking about being gay and those feelings and everything. So if I would have gone through with something like that, they wouldn't have understood why. And so it would have been, and I know people that uh, have experienced a loved one who has um, committed suicide and not left any kind of note or anything, or, they had no idea why they did this and living through that such agony of not knowing, that's and I didn't want to do that to anyone. I didn't want them to find me that way and all this kind of thing. And so in a way that people pleasing, I think,
Yeah.
prevented me from doing it.
That's probably one of the things that saved me too.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that was always the talk out point is if I do this, then I can't do this other thing. And I want to reconcile those relationships. And the way I do that is by doing this thing. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
how did that make you feel, Brandon? I mean, how did you compartmentalize that?
Um Which about wanting to die?
Yeah.
I mean, it just went on for a long time. Depression, isolating, not feeling I was worthy of any kind of friendships or love or anything, and eventually I got to the point where I accepted myself and uh, was okay with who I was. And that was the major turning point, and not caring so much about what other people thought. It's not about them. It's not their life. They're not living this life.
Yeah.
I'm the one that has to deal with this.
So
I can't make them happy, be performative for them.
I've said this before from a political perspective, but as much from a therapeutic emotional perspective, the same thing applies. And that's the only thing that you have to be performative for is what is in your parochial circle. We all behave parochially. We, as human beings, we generally do, we fall into patterns. I go to the same Starbucks. I go to the same grocery store. You know, I eat at the same restaurants. I, you know, when it's date night and she's taking me out and she says, "Where do you want to go?" And I'm like, "You know where I want to go. I want to go to my Italian place where the people who are in there tell me my dress looks cute and or address me and gender me correctly or those kind." And so that's as performative as any of us needs to be. If you live in that circle, whatever is in that circle, you know, that's the way that you are able to handle that. The problem is that when you're in the closet or you're living in denial or you don't accept that you're a woman inside or that you're gay inside or that you're, you know, whatever other orientation or gender inside, means that you can't move around that circle. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
The circle becomes part of the closet
Right.
and part of the locks on the door.
Right.
And I'm not saying I don't care at all what other people think, because there is still that, I think it's always going to be there that I care somewhat what people think. Well, I think we all act differently in different environments, in different situations. Sometimes that's for safety. We
Yeah.
might go into a place and realize that if you are completely the way that you feel like being, that may not be advisable. And so we, might, in my case, tone it down or whatever.
I I I love the movie. I hate how it ended, but I love the movie Brokeback Mountain. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Enos tells it, if this thing takes a hold of us at the wrong place and the wrong time, we're dead. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what. And yes, that's exactly true. That's
Yeah.
true. Um, Gizmo lives up in Kennesaw with her mom's, and every time I have to drive up there, I never wear a dress. I always wear a pair of leggings and tennis shoes and something ambiguously gendered. I never wear my hair. I never do my makeup. I put on my headscarf. And if I'm really feeling insecure, I don't shave for 2 days. Because that town is not conducive to
Yeah.
being.
So boy moding is
Yes.
safer.
I literally boy mode it as much as I can against all of the estrogen therapy I've been through.
Yeah.
You know, I tighten up my bra, you know, that whole bit. Because my safety is more important.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not so much about safety. Like when I'm around certain family members and everything, I don't wear any makeup. Sometimes I take my earrings out and that kind of thing. And those are small things, but I just don't want to deal with comments and things like that. It's just, and it's not, those things aren't, I don't know if they're not essential to who I am. I enjoy them, but going without them in certain situations, it doesn't make me feel bad. And I can go without it for the day or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, there is still a little bit of the people pleasing, but it's not as much the people pleasing as I just don't want to deal with the turmoil and the backlash and things like that. And like, I'll just avoid it.
Well, why would you want to confront that? You
Right.
didn't
But
have.
some people they would be like, I'm going to do this no matter what they think. And I'm going to do this no matter what, we'll get into it. I don't care. Well, I'm not that type of person. I tend to avoid conflict. I'm not afraid of it necessarily because I can debate with someone, but you also, when it's your family and you still want to be a part of their lives and you care about them, you try to keep the peace. At least for me, I do. And I don't think that's compromising my integrity or who I am. I don't feel that way at least. And so I'm okay with it.
I think that's completely reasonable. Um, I really do. We have to stop doing this. I'm crying over the both of you through this shit. I'm just gonna go in.
Well, I mean, when you're talking trauma, I'm not sure how you can really avoid
No,
some of
I
that.
don't. I don't.
Yeah, and like even though we talk to people in the chat about their traumas sometimes, or we invite people to come up as a guest, every show we talk about our own traumas.
Right. Right.
So, and I mean, we need to.
Well, I think
I,
it's hard to relate to somebody if you don't have those experiences yourself. That they might not uh, accept or believe what you're saying if you
Yeah,
don't have at least some kind of similar experience. So I think we need to.
I think the benefit of this talk and having these discussions, at least externally, people have said, I watched your show and um, I did not realize that the trauma that you were talking about is trauma that I have. And when people see that you experience trauma, or that you have similar trauma that other people have, that makes the trauma in other people become much more keenly aware. And even further still, their willingness to talk about it. Because, yeah, it's helpful to talk about it. I mean, if you don't talk about it, if you internalize it, it's going to chew you up. I mean,
Maybe one of these days we need to talk about humor as a combatant to trauma, just to lighten the mood a little bit.
Brandon, you're next on picking our topics. So
yeah,
That's
you
true.
know, you're the next
maybe
topic picker.
maybe you can be the one to bring us positive vibes. I don't know if Wendy and I are ever going to be the ones to do that.
How to make trauma talk positive.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't thought of that until we were talking just now. So
let me give you an example. Just gonna put some food for thought in your head. For example, here's a great one. How do you deal with people who toxically respond to you in public? And my favorite example of that is, I've done this before, actually, even recently. Like, people make some comment or whatever, and you're like, yeah, okay, shut up, asshole. And their immediate knee jerk response is to tell you, you know what? Fuck you. My literal knee jerk response to that is, you wouldn't like it. I just lay there and keep asking if you put it in yet or not. Oh, yeah. And I should point out that um, I said this in the chat. Onyx Rose and I have actually met in real life. Um, Onyx Rose and I have met in real life. And it's sad that I have to bring this up, but about 5 years ago, there was a person in the community. Katie was her name, and she was a real strong member in the community. And so Onyx and I were going to the same support group, trans queer support group. And Katie was in that group. And Katie sort of lived in a world where the trauma that she was experiencing because of her age came from her family. And that trauma reached a terminal level. And then Katie didn't see another way out. And she took the long walk. And she unalived herself. And, myself, I was very affected by it. My friend Sasha was very affected by it. Um, you know, Other girls that we knew in the community, a girl named Nala, my friend Cece, we were all like blown away by it and couldn't deal with it. And so it culminated in a, you know, Onyx is a worthy follow. Onyx, we should. Oh, yeah, that's right. Katie's dad was the one that unalived her. It wasn't self-inflicted. And so that's the, and then turn the gun on himself. And that's how disaster. Onyx, we should talk after this. We should really talk after this. Because honestly, we should collaborate or something. Miranda, you know what I'm going to talk about. But anyway, so yeah. And so that culminated, and I still have the pictures from the here. I will dig one up and show everybody said photograph from said activity. Because I know I have it. I may even have a picture of Onyx. Wait. Onyx, do I have permission if I have a picture to show a picture of you? Always ask.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's see. Holy shit. What was this? April 2nd of 2022. Yeah, here we go. All right, give me a second. Give me a second. Um, so years, gosh, 2022. Uh, that was at the height of
I'd let the cat out.
yeah, here we go.
So impatient.
Yeah, oh, horribly impatient. Oh, here we go. All right, so there's the picture of Katie from the event at Morgan Falls. Ignore my notifications, by the way. So
Wendy and I are getting the same notifications.
yeah, right, yeah.
You're in a group chat.
So I like Katie was really. I thought she was very beautiful. And so um, there's my friend Ash from the event, and then gosh, I thought I had a picture of Onyx. I might still though. Let me just see. So this was April of 2022. Let's see, April. Well, I'm just gonna actually manually look. For this shit. Um, Gosh, we were having such fun back then. April 2nd was the date of the event. Because I was sure I took a shit ton of pictures that day. Maybe I only took the 3 or 4, but I was pretty sure I took more. No, that was really so the same day of that event, here's my friend Quincy, who, oh my God, see how hot and attractive she looks? Not an ounce of surgery and no hormones. Um, so holy shit. Yeah, right. I takes me back. But yeah, but Onyx and I are familiar with each other from so it wasn't 5 years ago, it was 3.5 years ago. Wasn't that long. But anyway, so um wow. Weird interconnections that happen. But yeah, Katie's dad basically killed her and then himself. And, you know, and it was all over the fact that Katie was trans, which was a very difficult thing to compartmentalize and deal with. It was really hard. So, whew. Anything to close, Brandon?
Well, if you find yourself in the middle of the thoughts of self-harm, seek some help. Talk to somebody about it.
Talk to one of us. We
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
we know, been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to somebody. Figure out which friend or friends you can really be that level of honest with. Someone who's going to be there to listen and to lift you up and not to shame you for your self-harm or shame you for feelings of depression. A lot of times, the step of getting it out in the open is a huge step toward healing and not harming. So you don't have to solve the whole problem at once. You can't solve the whole problem at once, but if you can, you know, be vulnerable and honest, you can start to heal.
And don't rely on ChatGPT
Oh my
to
God.
give you
Yeah.
Oh my
advice.
god! Oh my god!
Because did you see? It wasn't too long ago. I read the article about the parents who were suing OpenAI because I don't remember if it was their son or daughter or whatever, but they were having conversation with ChatGPT, and basically the chatbot kind of led them to a place
Encourage them
where,
to.
yeah, they encouraged them not to tell anybody, for one thing.
Mhm.
And I mean, that wasn't like the ultimate goal, but I've done AI training and I know, like, if you go down a certain path with the chatbots, they will start to kind of, they'll agree with you, they will. And if you're leading them, they will take it even further down that road, you know. And it's not the intent of the company to cause someone self-harm, but they're very easily manipulated. And if you, without realizing it, you can lead them to a place where they'll actually kind of not, maybe not encourage you, but not discourage you from doing something that you shouldn't. So either way, don't
There's
rely on.
there's a very easy way to define this. My friend Megan's production company made a movie called Her with Joaquin Phoenix. Watch that movie
Hmm.
because that's what that movie's about: is Joaquin Phoenix's character falling in love with an AI.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I haven't seen it.
And yeah, that's the thing that should tell you, don't use AI to validate your emotional feelings. It won't. Yeah, it won't. And to my other co-hosts, I agree. There's always somebody to talk to. There's always somebody that understands. There's always somebody you can turn to, and there's always somebody willing to listen. And seek those things first before you do something else.
Yes.
Oh, Princess Hope, the name of the movie is called Her. Yeah. Watch that. Yeah, Her. Right, exactly. Um, so okay. So Brandon, you're gonna do next Tuesday? Are you gonna do me on next Tuesday?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh God. I'm
Tomorrow,
feeling warm now.
tomorrow I'm going to give myself a facial
Oh my God.
on
See,
live
I'm at the
video.
point. I haven't been able to do my nails. I haven't been able to get a facial. I haven't been able to get a. I'm going to tell you, first paycheck, bitches. So I'm going to the spa.
Well,
Hell yeah, you deserve to.
this is
Yeah.
a
First
DIY
paycheck,
facial.
a bitch is going to the spa.
This is a DIY facial. Karen Marie Shelton is going to give me a home DIY kind of recipe, I guess, and I've got the ingredients for it, and we'll see how that goes.
You know what? look, I'm just telling you, when we do Wendy cons in KC next year, I guarantee you one part of that is all of us are going out to the salon.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, we're all going out to the salon
All right.
because that's happening. WendyCon in Kansas City next spring. It's happening. It's happening. So, all right. Well, cool. Well, Brandon, thank you as always.
Mm.
Miranda, the same. Yeah, I probably not, Ted. I mean, I've talked to her a bunch. I have a fair idea. So, all right. Well, thank you both. Thank you, everybody else. Next Tuesday, 1:00. Promise, 1:00. By the way, promise, 1:00 on Tuesday. Promise. All right. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.